license and registration, he can sense your aggravation.
On the head of the fallen angel.
When the world is muttering under the floorboards, stomp even louder.
Time.
Let them know you are alive today.
Or unhum.
Did you know that your hands came with a ripple effect?
Whisper tones unraveling like silk.
Blood, sweat, and tears win by any means poetry.
Wait, look at me. Is a piece of the pie too good for me?
Some may call it rock the mic. We call it poetry.
Well, hello, Sojourn with Words viewers and visitors and guests. Welcome back to another episode, another absolutely astounding episode. I'm excited because I have with me here in studio, and of course, this is our virtual studio, but I have with me a poet that I know you will find fascinating and intriguing, just as I have. I'm speaking of Nan Maneely. And Nan, thank you first and foremost so much for being with us, for being my guest here on Sojourn with Words, CTV's premier poetry presentation. Now, before we have Nan to actually start sharing a lot about what she's doing these days, we want to tell you a little bit about her. So I've got my information here, and I'm just going to read directly from what I have. Nan Maneely, or her first book, Letter from Italy, 1944, Antrim House, was noted by the Hartford Courant as one of 13 important books by Connecticut writers in 2013. So that sets the stage kind of right there to let you know. Now, it provided the libretto for an oratio of the same name composed by Sarah Maneely Kiter and performed twice by Connecticut choruses and symphony orchestras. Nan's second book, Simple Absence, also Antrim House, was nominated for the National Book Award and placed as a grand prize finalist in the Next Generation Indie Awards and the 2021 Eric Hoffer Award. Nan has loved careers in teaching at secondary, college, and graduate school levels, training and program management. Now, this gives us somewhat of a picture of just who we have here as this poet, as this writer of words that are so compelling. Nan, welcome to Sojourn with Words.
Thank you. I don't know how to say how honored I am to be here, Sistah Joy.
Well, it is absolutely our privilege to have you. And I pride myself on digging for jewels. And when I came across your work, and truth be told, I've known you for a little bit of a while now. So I've been paying attention to those poems that you share on various poetry venues. The virtual world is rife with poets these days. And so because of the pandemic, the exposure opportunity is now broadened, whereas previously we would limit our pool, as it were, to poets in the Prince George's County area. Now the world is our oyster, and we get excellent poets such as yourself. So I'm excited, I'm thrilled, I'm happy that you are here with us. Nan, you told us about some awards, you've given me information about your publications. Let's find a little bit about who is Nan, this woman with the beautiful locks, this woman who is clearly doing great things, continuing with education and teaching and what have you. What's on the horizon for Nan right about now?
That is a beautiful question and one that's hard to answer. At 78, I'm not sure how to count whether it's decades or years or into a new century. I don't know, but I want, of course, to keep writing poetry because that's one of the happiest things I do. And certainly the most rewarding. I would love to be back teaching, leading workshops of people who'd like to be writing poetry, but there's some underlying conditions in my family and a 4-year-old granddaughter who keep me from being face to face with people. And really, teaching is a face to face thing, I think.
Well, I've done a few workshops that have proven successful. But now, speaking of 4-year-old, have you introduced her to poetry?
Oh, sure. She loves reading and she loves rhyming.
Okay, of course. At 4, they're supposed to.
That's what she's doing.
Okay. Well, now, with regard to, you've talked about your journey as an educator and that being something that brings you joy, and poetry brings you joy. When you look at this time that we're living in, this pandemic is just something that has affected all of us. Tell us about how has poetry for you affected your writing, and has it provided opportunities even that you might not have anticipated?
I think the grief that is so universal has affected the way I write, what I find I want to write about. There's such sorrow and such anguish everywhere, on every level of life. That definitely has affected my writing, and it's affected my ability to write to a certain extent, because I have typically found serenity, perfect quiet and serenity, to be what enables me to produce poetry. If I sit serene, I can open myself to whatever there is out there that wants to be written.
Yes, we share that. Some people can write under any circumstances, or like music when they write, or it's not disturbing if there are people around, and that doesn't work for me. So serenity is I need the plate to be bare. So yeah. I do understand. Yes. Now, certainly as one who has been recognized in the literary community, are there poets that have inspired you or influenced you with regard to your style or where you find yourself drawn to?
I'll pinpoint this by saying that I began to think about poetry really when I was very, very young, kindergarten and first grade.
Oh, okay.
My father wrote poetry, and the first book he gave me was the little golden book of the treasury of ancient poetry. And so I was raised with rhythm. I was raised with poetry that rhymed and had very distinct rhythm. Some of it drumbeat, not all of it. And the way that's affected me is that even when I don't intend to use rhythm forcefully, it's very hard for me to write without rhythm. And it's kind of hard for me to escape iambic pentameter particularly.
Okay. Well, when you talk about rhythm, maybe now would be a good time to jump in and give us an example of one of your poems that you feel particularly addresses or incorporates this technique for you. Do you have a poem that you think would be a good example of showing the rhythm and the music of poetry through your poems?
Yes. I thought about you when I wrote this poem, Sistah Joy. This is Sacred Silences. And when I picked this poem, shall I just read it?
Yes, please do. Again, the title is?
Sacred Silences.
Okay, thank you.
The last cloud of the storm is borne in tatters to the east. The steeple stands against a sky as still and deep as any soundless promise I might take to heart. In the country church below, there is, of course, the quiet we can't hear, the waiting of believers for the way to question what emerges after nature rakes a place and leaves a sudden hush. But all around the church, there is the other silence, hallowed song of earthly things, arising from the beating of the rain, the ringing of a meadow wild with bloom, music in its flowering. It will not last another month, this garden where we lose ourselves in worship without knowing that we do, rife with melody, the harmony of yellow's height with shafts of purple blue, the chimes of red beneath. It calls us to be tuning all we are to all it is. We let ourselves forget fragility. That's the
Wow, such beautiful writing. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And I'm honored that did I misunderstand you to say that you thought about me as you were writing that poem?
I rewrote it thinking about you.
Oh, I'm very honored. Thank you. I'll have to request a copy if I may. But that's down the road. That's down the road. Well, that was beautiful and certainly gave our viewers a very strong indicator of the caliber of writing that you bring to Sojourn with Words. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I know that there are poems and messages that have to do, let's see, one of the poems that I like of yours was a persona poem. And you spoke about some very dear matters. Would you care to share? I think, let's see, what was that?
Cold comfort.
Yes, please do share that one and tell us a little, before you do, tell us a little bit about this particular poem.
I will. My father fought in the Second World War with the 10th Mountain Division, which was the ski troops. So he was in Italy. He was also in the Aleutians, but I think the hardest moments came in the Italian campaign. He was a doctor. So it is said that the physicians who fought in the war were stricken more easily by a post-traumatic stress disorder, and he had a nervous breakdown 5 years after the war ended, and then, sorry to have to say this, it's shocking, but he surrendered his own life when I was 18. So he just was unable to live with what he had to live with. And
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so this poem it's about an evening at home after the war when he has begun his descent into death. It's called Cold Comfort, and it's a persona poem written in my father's voice. I have to say that I didn't write these poems in my father's voice until I read all the letters he wrote home to my mother while he was overseas. I inherited those. We've emptied out the songbird seed, hung racks of suet for the jays and flickers who will risk the scouring of our hilltop wind, the sting of snow blown hard before it falls. The sheep are in, and snowdrift fences back the dragging vegetables my garden bore too late. The bin below the fireplace is tight with lengths of maple and oak. Fresh split, they fill the room with wet redolence of winter brought indoors. The children trail into the lighted den to say goodnight, bathed early after Sunday's lesser meal. I fill myself with this, the depth of home, its harmony of time, comfort I have made against the cold that's coming on. all I dare not conjure in the Alpine winter war. I might have cried. We couldn't cry. We cursed. We turned the Germans into uniforms and helmets, made them devil's work. We turned our longing into dirty jokes. We laughed. But Billy, when you died the week before the enemy laid down its arms in Italy, I sent you off with love I'll never have again to give. In that hollowing, I shelter you, contained beneath a burgeoning of happiness I cannot let you test. Pleasure in the duties of an ordinary day, safety of the soft old hills that cup my farm, reunion with a family I saw at first as velvety and strange. But nights like this one, 3 drinks on, the place where I enclose you fails. Image swells from fissures I don't want to heal. Memory of soldier love that steadied hour by hour, ridge by ridge, and luck by luck. Love we knew might any moment alchemize to grief. I loved you as no wife you widowed could have. I love you in a way that somehow widows mine. Sorry about the cat in the background.
It's okay. That's okay. The poem more than spoke sufficiently to bring everyone's attention to the fore. The issue of loss of life is paramount these days. And I don't know if that's what sensitized me so to this poem that as I read it, but my heart went out and it is just so very poignant. And I thank you for sharing it here with our viewers today on Sojourn with Words. Have you shared the poem with family members? I'm sure by now. Yes.
I think so. I know they have the book.
Uh-huh.
I know the sister who was engaged with me in writing the oratorio has read that poem and heard it read.
And tell us again the title of the book that's contained in.
Letter from Italy, 1944.
Right, okay. And so about how many letters did your father write to your mother?
He wrote her every day he could.
Okay.
There was a sheaf of, obviously he couldn't write every day, but.
Right, but I understand, right, okay. Well, the poetry, again, so beautiful, even in the pain of such messages, just absolutely exquisite writing. Do we have something that you would care to bring us up a bit? You tell us what you'd care to share, whether it was one that you had shared with me previously or not.
Yeah, I have shared this with you, I think maybe twice. This is At Night the House Belongs to Me.
Oh, yes. I love that one. Yes, yeah. Thank you.
At night the house belongs to me. The quiet isn't quite complete. Our old house sighs beneath the weight of cold and dark. A single car is a whisper in the village street, and I can hear the hum of dishes washing, radiators singing protest as the heat comes on. Muted notice that the night, though full of peace, is not asleep. Only the hall light glows, and shadow frames the wicker rocking chair where my daughter will nurse before the night is through. She's snoring softly, one hand flung between the bars of her crib as if she'd attempted a getaway before the rest of her surrendered to the hour. In their 3rd floor eyrie, Gary's sons are dreaming, perhaps of the days before their mother let them go. Morning often finds the older bleeding bitterness, the younger longing fruitlessly. But this night seems to offer tendering, our motley family joined in rest. My husband drowses in our bed, arms and legs stretched either way, so half of him can warm the place where I will lie. He'll turn himself away when I slip underneath the sheet we share. and I will curl my back into the curve of his, as safe as ever I have felt.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
I absolutely love that poem. You speak of love in such delicious language. It is absolutely wonderful as I read it, and hearing you read it today, it's just what I thought it would be. Thank you. Thank you. Now, you talk about 3 different approaches to your writing. You talk about to express appreciation for a single moment, and then you talk about to explore or discover and share an awakening. And then you talk about remembering. So those are the 3 that I thought, I've never really categorized my poems in that manner, but it's very much all encompassing. That tends to be the experience that we as poets kind of come to what it is we approach. What have you consciously categorized your poems in those groups?
No, it's as I thought about things I thought you and I could talk about, that those occurred to me.
Okay. Well, I know there the idea of found poetry is unique, and I've only ventured into those waters a few times, but you have a found poem that I'd like to, number one, tell our viewers what is a found poem?
Oh, well, this poem isn't a perfect found poem. A perfect found poem actually exists before you find it. It is written, maybe actually written, or written in the way someone speaks, or in the way something looks. A found poem is something you don't have to work to create. It is there for you to find.
Okay. So I know when I've ventured into that particular craft, because of course poetry is a craft. We have to massage, we have to labor, we have to edit, we have to finesse and all of that. And I've taken a couple of, say, magazine articles and just go down the page circling words that connect, circling. And the poem that results from those beautiful words that just jump out at you when it's right, they may have nothing to do with the article subject itself. And that's what brings you even more excitement, because you say, oh, nobody ever would have considered this. So a found poem is just such a beauty unto itself. So having now discussed found poems, would you care to share one and tell us the origin of the found poem that you would like to share?
As I said, it's not a good found poem. And I love that idea of taking an article and moving down
Oh, I've done it. It's fun. It really is. I've done workshops even with, like high school students, and it kind of takes some of the weight off of them, because they continually say, I don't know what to write. And then this way, they don't have to be the genesis of the message. They're on scout mission, kind of like.
they find the poem within the word.
And they find what I would never find. That's the beauty of it. It's almost a generational thing.
I think it's like that river you can't step in twice. I mean, I don't think anyone would find the same poem anyone else found in a single essay.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay. Well, Nan, what do you have for us in the way of a found poem? And we have really just a few more minutes. Oh my goodness, time has gotten away.
Yeah, it's a 1-minute poem. We'll be fine.
Okay.
Found poem. I reach with the tip of my pen to the back of myself to feel for poems undelivered, the ones gestating into nightmare, wordless dreams that tinge the hours till afternoon. I reach and find the moon, deformed, insomniac, with one cheek flat against a strew of stars. I tease it out, this canted, sleepless moon, with half a smile, and give it to you as it is, a pleasure simpler than perfection, in what might have been the quiet desolation of a January sky.
Wow. Beautiful. Again, the wordsmanship, absolutely wonderful. Now, I think you said one cheek flat against a slew of stars. Was that the line?
Through a strew of stars.
Okay, it's true. Like, yes,
Right.
got it. Oh, again, the wordsmanship. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It has been a quick 30 minutes. It absolutely has been. I knew this was going to happen. Thank you so very much. I hope all of our viewers today have enjoyed meeting and getting to know Nan Maneely. I want to rename her. Nan Maneely is her name. She's originally from Philly, but she is now based in Connecticut and doing award-winning work as a poet. And if ever you're in that way, please look her up. But Nan, are you available online for contact?
I don't have a website.
You don't have a website. Is there an email address that our viewers can be in touch with you?
Certainly.
And that is?
N as in Nan, F, H, M as in Maneely, 0707 @hotmail.com.
Okay. Well, we'll try to make sure that we have that generated across the screen when you're actually on air. And thank you so much for being our guest here on Sojourn with Words, the premier poetry channel based in Prince George's County, but now sharing poetry with the world. Thank you so much, Nan. We appreciate and enjoy the opportunity to present you to our viewers right here. Again, Sojourn with Words, CTV, based in Prince George's County, Maryland. Emani at the Schomburg. 5-year-old girl child, so at home. Here at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. Coloring in her notebook, softly singing to self, singing her song of life. Little brown girl, so self-assured, such beauty, such promise, choosing colors, patterns, and songs, choosing to stand rather than sit. Of course, she belongs here, never knew to be reserved or timid or shy. Why should she? This was her place, as much a part of her Saturday mornings as her people's history. A place where people looked like her. Art on the walls, stories in books, workers and patrons shared her broad, beautiful smile. She was sunshine, choosing two colors simultaneously, indiscriminately, because one couldn't possibly express the creative burst of beauty inside her mind, inspired by the books stacked about her. Flipping pages, glancing about the room, hers was the freedom of a spirit so totally at home. I smile and know that she is tomorrow, one I shall never fully see. I thrill to witness its coming, thrill that this 5-year-old girl child's mother chose to nurture her daughter in this place of culture and beauty and history. This place that took me nigh 5 decades to find. This place of Black excellence, the Schomburg.